Jess, welcome back.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much. I was gonna say I'm so excited about this, but I'm nervous and excited. This is making me very vulnerable, but it's gonna be awesome.
It is
And
a
all
very,
the things you know, Jess.
it doesn't just highlight or illuminate where we're not living in our authenticity or where we are perhaps vulnerable to
Mhm.
conditioning and how that pattern might have previously played out in our lives or currently plays out.
Right.
It's also what I call a process of confirmation and clarity.
Mm,
Clarity and confirmation, because I trained in quantum human design as well as the traditional human design. And quantum human design is created by Karen Curry Parker to speak to the awakened being, the one who is already who has done a lot of deconditioning work. So if you are someone who has done a lot of inner child work, if you've done ayahuasca, if you've done plant medicine, if you've done energy healing, if you're in your self-development process, you probably would have started to unravel some
yeah.
of those conditioning patterns
Yes.
naturally.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we are the more fundamentally, if I could take away all the intellectual stuff and all the knowledge of design and gene keys, if we just meditate and tune into our soul, we can start to actually be guided from within
Yeah.
without needing all of this stuff.
Yes.
However, it is highly supportive to understand ourselves and have a roadmap, which is right there, and a user manual that
Yes.
can actually quicken or hasten the journey or pinpoint rather than being, because we in our conditioning we can also be conditioned to go all over the place and
Yes.
not think out things that are not important. So it's a valuable tool. It's a
Yes.
valuable, let's look at it as a tool uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
on our journey,
Yeah.
and it really is valuable. Like even if you
Yes.
have done high levels of inner work and your soul has drawn you to human design or gene keys, it will direct you and get you into greater alignment, greater certainty. So you have an open head and an open ajna, and one of
Yeah.
the not self themes is I am looking for certainty. And so having something like this and having and really being able to look at where our shadow patterns and our low frequency patterns show up in our lives and hold us back from being in our harmony, being in our peace.
That makes total sense. And something I thought, and we can get to this if it doesn't make sense to go to it right now, but just don't let me forget because I brought up the last time I spoke to you my dharma, which I thought was visionary and teacher, but this makes me feel like I have that wrong.
No,
Or is it spot
you're
on?
actually strangely, oh my God, I've got goosebumps again.
Do I know what I'm doing?
your your life work. So let's bring up your chart. So when I'm talking, there's
Yeah,
context.
yeah, 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 that works. That makes sense. Does everyone have two closed centers, or does that vary depending on the person?
That varies. So you
Okay,
are quite
interesting.
an evolved being. Let me. You're a wise soul with the sixth line energy. Hold on a second. Let me look for. I'll tell you. We'll go into that as well. Bear with. Okay. So the first question you just asked was, am I a visionary teacher? Right. So what you're really referring to on a fundamental level is profile, which I'm not wasn't going to start with, but let's touch on it here while we're here. So
Okay, sorry.
profile is our role in this life. It's how we live out this purpose. So when we look at our profile, which happens to be these two numbers, so we always take, so the black side is our conscious personality side, the red side is our design side. So we always take the first number, which for you is a six, and we take the second number, and that is a two. This makes you a 6-2 profile.
Okay.
This gives us huge amounts of information about your trajectory in life, your role in life, how you're here to fulfill your purpose, how you're here to serve the whole, specific genius, specific talents, specific qualities that you have, how you operate in relationship. The lines give us huge amounts of information. So let's just break them down. So the sixth line on its own is the archetype of the role model. Okay, it's called,
Okay.
and in quantum human design, it's called the adept. And the reason for this is because the sixth line the sixth line is somebody who is here to have a bird's eye view of what the potential and possibilities of life can be, and to role model, to become the example of what it means to actually live authentically and follow your own inner authority, and
Wow.
to model the transcendence that's possible of living on the material plane.
Wow.
So the 6-2 as a profile carries the gift of wisdom, and the trajectory is to live your truth from an internal authority, which is why for you today, taking away how to understand how to create from response and how to understand how to use your sacral response is going to be foundational. Like, it's going to change your life if that's not something you're doing already, because that is going to unlock your key to
Mhm.
right people, right places, right timing, right opportunities, and the specific things that you are here to enter into this lifetime, which will then keep you on your line of of your line of geometry, meaning that you're going to automatically start to live that role model existence. But
Wow.
if we look at it from like a business perspective or a coaching, mentoring perspective, we're looking at someone who is here to teach from their personal experience. Here
Awesome.
is something I learned. Here is what I did when this thing happened and how I overcame it. Let's carry on bit by bit. So you're here to show people through example an alternative to the propensity to abandoning themselves to an outer authority. So the sixth line is very spiritual. It's all about really walking away from any societal sort of religious, any external authority apart from your ability to connect with your source, is really what you're here to find out. And the sixth line on its own is a triphasic journey. So the first 30 years of the six lines life, from 0 to 30, they are living like a third line. And the third line is the line of trial and error. So the
Hmm.
first 30 years, and the reason why you're doing that is because you're gathering a lot of information that then becomes the wisdom that you then get to transmit to
Wow.
others. Phrasing it, transmitting wisdom is going to come in important in a minute for your particular purpose. It is fascinating, and I mean, I'm loving your chart. I mean, it's gonna blow you away. So,
I'm already covered in goosebumps. This is
oh,
already making
fantastic!
so much sense.
Yes, the sixth line. Um, it can be very messy, it can be very chaotic in the first 30 years. And then what happens, you get to 30, between 30 and 50, and you kind of, life sort of, you kind of withdraw a little bit and you stop like
Mhm.
jumping into the fire and getting into experiences which are quite like painful even.
Yes.
And you start to, you kind of develop a detached observer. And this is where you start to heal. This is where you
Hmm.
start to question, who am I? What are my values? What's going on? What wisdom have I gleaned from those earlier years? And then what happens is you get to 50, and that's where your Chiron return comes in, and you really step into the role model. Not to say between 30 and 50 that you can't, but you're going to find that you're intuitively wanting to be way more withdrawn and in your own process before you come back out into the world and share the wisdom. Now, guess what? When I go to Jinkies and I look at your conscious sun, which
Hmm.
also is the six, when we look at what that six means, it's
Hmm.
the role of the teacher.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah,
Wow. And what's crazy is that I started doing inner work right around 30. Like I tell people all the time for the last 10 years, I've been my second full-time job has been inner work.
yeah,
This
yes.
is fascinating. And I have
Uh,
been doing a lot of withdrawal for sure. It says hermit next to role model. Like
yes.
that is spot on. I feel like
Wow.
I've been hiding away.
I think that's beautiful to come into that two line. So it is called the hermit because the two line needs to withdraw. It has to be in its own space to access its innate wisdom and
Mhm.
its innate genius. So one of the questions I would ask someone, if they're a two line and they, do you get enough alone time? Clearly that you are.
Yeah. So if the solar is open, that's empath, right?
Yes.
So for a long time, I was confusing other people's feelings that I was picking up on as my own. For like the first 30 years, there was a lot of there wasn't enough with withdrawal. It was I constantly was around people. I definitely had FOMO, all of that. I wasn't like walking away. I wasn't in the hermit enough.
Some two lines are conditioned out. Oh, I need to be a social butterfly. I need to be out. They're not giving themselves that spaciousness and
Yes.
that withdrawal to be able to lose themselves in childlike wonder in the passions. It's what we call a selective passion. You have an innate genius that you don't need to study for. So for you, it's really about following what lights you up and
Yeah.
what your aura is responding or calling you into. Most important thing now on your chart to look at is the fact that you are a generator. A generator is 70% of the population of the world. And the generator is here to be in relationship to right work. And it's here and it has something very powerful called the sacral center. The sacral center is the center of life force energy. Now, many people will say when you start learning about being a generator, they're going to say you need to learn to respond. So, generators who are in the emotional theme when they're in a not self, well, and that can happen for all of us. So, all of us have an emotional theme that tells us we're out of alignment. We
Okay.
are in a job that we shouldn't be doing. We're
Mm.
saying yes when we should be saying no. We are overworking and not taking enough rest. That emotional theme for you is called frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So the generator is here to respond via the sacral. So learning to be embodied, learning to let go of what the mind is saying, but physically tune into what we call the yes of the sacral, which is
Uh-huh.
like a good, good. So what we have here are the gates of your sacral that are activated. So what we see is the fifth gate, the 14th gate, the 29th gate, and the third gate. These tell us what you are actually designed to respond to and enter. This will tell us what relationships or situations or thing like jobs, career experiences that you are designed to respond to. So if you go into something, so the 29, for example, is about commitment. And if, for example, a man asked you on a date and you got a no from your sacral, but your mind said yes and entered into it, that's where the stuckness comes in. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the lack of satisfaction comes in. So the other side of the emotional theme for the generator is the satisfaction, feeling fulfilled, feeling energized, feeling like they want to wake up tomorrow morning and go and do that thing again, and even when it gets tough, they'll persevere because they've got the energy to fulfill the commitment they've entered into. But when you get the 29 and it's not your sacral has said no, and
Mm-hmm.
you've overridden your sacral response and you've entered in incorrectly. This
Mm-hmm.
is where you begin to get illness. This is where you start
Mm-hmm.
to feel the frustration, where
Mm-hmm.
you want to quit. As you may see generators go into job after job after job, or
Yeah.
relationships and these and all these sorts of things, and quit because they haven't entered into the thing correctly.
Mm.
Now, part of the generator process is mastery. The generator is here to be an expert. It's here to become masterful in whatever it is they have correctly, chosen for themselves, whatever the skill set is, or a practice or career path through repetition. And they
Mm.
have a built-in stair-step learning process, meaning you're always being called into higher levels of mastery. This is about living in the flow of life. You will be initiated again, your sacral will respond, and boom, you're going to meet that next level. So
Yes.
that's the learning style. Yeah.
This makes so much sense.
hmm But when we look at the 29, the 29 is a, the voice of the 29th gate would say to you, I'm available to make a commitment. So you're saying yes to discovery. So the 29, like in alignment, is entering into relationship or an experience as a process of discovery, and it's not about having an end result goal. It's not about
Mm,
knowing what the outcome is. It's about going, I abandon myself to this journey, and whatever I discover along the way, woohoo, you
yes.
know, and I
Yes.
surrender. And that yes. You know, so what we want is generators saying yes to the right things, entering into right relationship, right work, and building the world as it could be, you know.
I love it. This makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
But yeah, your open head will just lose its train of thought. We're not designed to hold on to things the way that the defined heads are. So our skill
Mhm.
set isn't that. Our skill set is to be able to sift through lots of information and then process and, you know, bring out important bits, you know, for people. The emotional solar plexus, a couple of things about this while we're there is the not self pattern is, am I avoiding confrontation and truth? So
Mm,
we're seeing a lot of avoidance in that open emotional solar plexus. So
interesting.
this can show up as people pleasing,
Mm,
where perhaps where we were young and we may have tried to assert a boundary or a need to a caregiver or to a lover or to someone in authority, and they may have been emotionally defined where they we because when we're open, we are amplifying the energy of that person's of
mm,
that energy center. So a lot of people who have this open emotional solar plexus, they are avoiding confrontation, and over time saying, you know, constant, like suppressing their own needs,
yeah.
losing contact with their own desires, and that's something that a lot that is really needs to be dealt with. But as you become wise and as you start to be able to filter those emotional frequencies and become masterful with reading energy, that's when you can start to have guidance and an outer authority to help people to work with their emotional energy. And that's where we develop that emotional intelligence. So on our inner work journey, and as we do our shadow work, and for you, very likely you've done a lot around leadership, a lot around subconscious minds
Mhm.
and limiting beliefs, because the 31 is all about reprogramming the mind. It's about,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I did a lot of well, I mean, like I consciously did neuro linguistic programming. But even before I got certified in that, I was, yes, I was absolutely focusing on that. This makes so much sense.
Another thing that we see down here with your open emotion, open root center, this is a pressure center. So where we have an open root, one thing, we are not designed to have high stress environments. I
Yeah.
have this as well. So you and I both are open exactly the same places except for my spleen and not my sacral.
Right.
So where you're in, if you find yourself wanting to rush to get something done because you want to be free of the burden, if it, yeah, that
Hmm.
start to see your mind is identifying and operating in the not self, so that it will try to rush through things. You're going to have this urgency energy, and that can be the ADHD thing showing up, you know, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
this constant nervous, like I have to get things
Yes.
done.
Yes.
Yeah. So couple of things about that. Number one, make sure that so as you decondition the root, you are creating a life and a career and a business that has a lot of systems in place, that doesn't require you to work to deadlines, and allows you your spaciousness. But yeah, as you decondition this, you will find you're moving a lot slower, you're not responding so quickly, and things
Yes.
like that. Yeah,
Yes. If I look at what I'm doing now and how I'm responding, it's like if I look at now versus like college, it's night and day. Like if I had like a paper due like 3 months down the road, I would literally get it done like that day, just so I wouldn't have to worry about it the next 3 months. That's
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an illusion. So
Yes.
there's this constant thing, there's always got, because when we're in the not self of that root center, there will always be something that you want to be free from, right?
Hmm.
What's beautiful is that you are, if we look in your spleen, forget the not self thing of the spleen for a minute, but I would love to bring your attention to your 28 and your
Okay.
44. So the 44 again has this theme of helping people to release the past and and create new stories and new narratives. So lots of people in that 44 energy, and a low expression of that can be holding on to a past event or a past story or a cellular
Mm,
memory of something, and will hold them back from going forward. But the mastery of that gate is to be able to rewrite uh, the belief or the story, or
yes.
recode yourself to be able to know truth and create and go forward. Now, but the beauty of the 44 is that the 44 is here, or has a deep instinctive knowing, and because it can smell talent, it can smell somebody's purpose, it can smell the potential in a situation. So tuning into this instinctual and
Mm,
intuitive ability to smell out lies. I can smell a rat,
yes.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now look at where your 44 happens to be in your south node. Your nodal environment is really important because it's the environment in which you're going to walk through this life, and the way that your purpose will evolve. And the reason I bring this up is because your fractals, your soulmate clients, are two lines. So the twos, we have a lot of information around the twos. The twos are here to be respond to a call, often a spiritual call.
Hmm.
So when we see you are a teacher, when we see you're on the path of so higher consciousness and helping people with their evolution, we start to see that you're on the right trajectory. We start to see that you're in an environment where because the two is innate talent. So you're bringing all these people into your podcast. You're creating a social environment where people can come and express themselves
Mm,
creatively, their one lines, their self-expression, and you're giving them a platform, which is really quite high. Like, it's what you're here to do. And then having the 28, when we look at the 28, it's a third line, and any open center with a gate in the third line is where we have our profit potential. It's where we're actually designed to make money on a material plane. And guess what yours is? It's helping people to find their purpose,
wow. Wow.
find and align and live their purpose, and to trust in their own authority, in their own pathway, and follow adventure. So where, that could
Yes.
manifest in retreats. It could in
Yes. Oh, I literally have a business plan for a retreat. This is so funny. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious.
yeah, I know. And wait, though, it gets even better. It gets even better. So we're going to come back. We're
So
going to come,
funny.
because also when you look at your definition as well, your your definition again. So we synthesize the chart and we say, well, what are my profit potential? Well, we know it's to help people find their purpose. We've got the 44, we could smell talent. Your clients, there's two lines who actually need help with pulling out their purpose because
Mm,
you are able to see it.
mm,
And we then see that your defined center is the identity center, which again is helping people with direction, identity, and following their pathway. So you're guiding, you have the potential to guide people to their path and to their purpose. But what we also see is the 14. So you're 14, you're designed to respond to so it's in the quarter of mutation, meaning that you're here to respond to things that will allow you to mutate and
hmm
transform, right?
hmm
This
Mm-hmm.
is beautiful when you see that actually you have the potential to be the most influential people on the planet. So, again, having this platform, you're here to be very, very influential. Sixth line, here to influence people on a large scale. The sixth line is here to influence strangers of consequence. That, again, is someone just happens to go on your YouTube video, hear something from your thing, and wow, their whole life changes. You've changed the trajectory. So, the
Mm-hmm.
14, when you're responding correctly, remember last time. I said in our session, I said, just follow your path and the
Mm-hmm.
universe will provide. Well, that is
Mm-hmm.
everything. So the 14, as a generator, you are designed to respond to right work that shows up when you are fulfilled in the expression of your own life force energy. So when you are saying no to everything your sacral says no to, and you're not in corporate and you're following your soul's work, you will be supported 1000% from the universe.
Wow.
And when you're responding correctly, opportunities and rewards come. It's also the path of someone who can create a lot of wealth doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Wow.
Yes. And helping others into right work,
I
guiding others
love
into,
it.
again, if you see your profit potential of that 28, guiding people into right work. So um this is 14 is a like, and I'm going to give you the practical ways of working with this in a minute. It's about deeply trusting in the flow of life, deeply
Yeah.
trusting that you are a very powerful co-creator, and that when you start to use your head center as it was designed to be used, and when you start to say, really follow the opportunities that show up with your sacral, you are going to have limitless resources, limitless, anything you need to actually fulfill what you desire will come through.
Awesome. I could cry right now.
Yeah.
I really could. I just got because it's been very back and forth about trusting and allowing, and primarily it was a lot of resisting for a long time, and I'm finally to the point where I'm not only like just trusting because like nothing else has worked. It's like I'm trusting because I actually trust it. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And that's one of the questions I wrote down. I was going to ask you, how open are your receiving channels?
Completely at this point. At least I think I am. I mean,
No,
for the
you know.
better, more so than ever, for sure. I feel like I'm totally open at this point. I really
Yeah, amazing. Then again, 100% confirmation, clarity, you're on your right path. So then we get to the third gate, which is bloody interesting because again, it's in the quarter of mutation. What we see with you is that you are someone here to bring wide changes into
do.
society and
Mm,
through innovation. So you're going to mutate and you're going to change the world ultimately through your ability to, and your process of discovery. You're an innovator on the leading edge of consciousness. So take your time to cultivate your ideas, because you will be what you're here to transmit to the world will be heard and will be, it will, if you're saying yes to the 14, so you are with the podcast, you're saying yes to, your hermiting time and accessing your guidance, your genius, following what lights you up, you are going to transmit something that can change the world and change the way that people operate on a conscious level.
wow.
Um, and then with the sixth line, potential for the vast influential nature that you have. But then maybe this is a good time. We'll take a pause from the fifth gate, and we will look at your gates in your throat center. So
Mm,
there are three gates that are really important that I want you to. I'm going to read them out because it was a lot, and I wanted you to hear it. So the gate 56 is the divine storyteller. So that if you look up here in your throat, the 56 create really leaning into your own stories. So how maybe having a podcast where you are talking from your stories and your experiences and your educate, you're teaching people. So as a storyteller, you have the natural gift for weaving narratives that captivate and engage others. Your
mm,
ability to convey experiences, ideas, and emotions through storytelling is remarkable. So that's another thing I always say to the 56 is go and do a story selling course, go and do a storytelling course. If that's not something you're confident in or that you don't already do, go and learn about it.
I'm actually writing a book, so that would be super helpful anyways,
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
way.
Actually, I'm not plugging this, but I was literally had a download deal because remember I was an English teacher and
Mhm.
storytelling, all of that. I was thinking about creating a mini retreat around storytelling, but I'm not. That's just something
Oh,
that's. Yeah, yeah, I
I
know.
love that.
Yeah. Let's get back to this. This is really important. So you understand the impact of words and how they transport listeners to different worlds, evoke deep emotions, and inspire profound insights. To leverage this energy, it is essential to recognize that your storytelling power lies not only in the stories that you tell, but also in the skillful timing of when you share them. Choosing the right moment to unleash your tales amplifies their impact and their resonance. So even, when you're in the middle of a podcast using anecdotes, anyway, just when it feels aligned for you, you have an intuitive sense of when to speak up and when to hold back,
Mm.
allowing the energy of the moment to support and enhance the essence of your narrative. When you align yourself with appropriate timing, your storytelling becomes a potent force. Your voice carries weight, capturing the attention and the imagination of your audience. Whether it's a personal anecdote, a metaphorical journey, or a tale with a deeper meaning, your stories have the ability to inspire, educate, entertain, and transform the lives of those who hear them.
Wow.
And this is how you're designed to authentically express. And we're going to look at all of three of these gates because they're really important. So we have gate 45, which links in with your life work of being a teacher and your conscious sun of creating equilibrium and harmony in social groups.
Mm,
And so the gate 45 is called the king or queen. And it's about leadership and education. So you possess inherent leadership qualities and a natural inclination to guide and educate others. Your voice carries the weight of authority, wisdom, and knowledge, making you an influential figure in your community. So notice influential, being an influential role model, being an influential figure, being influential in transforming the way people think and how they live their lives is coming up everywhere in your chart. We've got it in the
wow.
14, in the 45. So uh, your words hold the power to inspire, motivate, and uplift those who listen. Being the voice of the teacher to the tribe, it is crucial for you to ground your communication in leadership principles.
Mm.
Your voice is most impactful when it reflects qualities of confidence, clarity, and authenticity. By embodying these leadership traits, you command attention and respect, ensuring that your message resonates with collective consciousness of your tribe. There is a condition. Timing plays a vital role in the effectiveness of your voice. Choosing the right moment to speak is essential to be truly heard and to make a lasting impact. By observing and understanding the dynamics of the situation, you can identify the opportune time to share your wisdom and your insight. This strategic approach ensures that your voice is received with openness, receptivity, maximizing the influence and its reach. And I just want to refer to Karen Curry Parker's book as well, because I actually have this gate in my north nodes. So that is a big part, self-actualized education, creating the education for elevation. So these have been my whole journey in life has been a trajectory of teaching, educating, and building where I'm going now, which is the next phase. Your trajectory is about an environment of both creative expression and receptivity. So the themes that of you leading into your purpose is more, even though there's huge amounts of leadership in there, for me that's my path is actually leadership and education and wealth creation. So the 45 is also about the ability to create wealth. But let's look at this because I love the voice of the 45 here, and I really resonate with it. I am a teacher and leader. I use my resources, my knowledge, and my experience to expand the resources, knowledge, and experiences of others. I use my blessings of abundance to increase the blessings of others. I know that I am a vehicle of wisdom and knowledge. I sense when it's right for me to share who I am and what I know with others. So, can you see how aligned the podcast is? Your book,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
the retreat, you know?
This is so great.
I know.
Wow.
Both of us have a deep pattern to work through all the time of unworthiness. So
Mm,
that open will center will have you proving your worth until you and it will show up in very subtle ways in different
uh-huh.
contexts. You know,
Mm-hmm.
undercharging, overgiving,
Uh-huh.
overworking, all the things.
All the things.
So the gate 31, the democratic leadership and influence. So you possess, and notice that this is your radiance. And so in Gene Keys, it would be your radiance. It's what keeps you healthy. Um, but it's also located in your throat. So how you ground yourself in your voice and how you show up in your communication, in your brand authority of who you are on a natural level. It's about possessing a natural gift of democratic leadership. Your
Mm,
voice carries the power to advocate for the collective, representing the needs and perspectives of the people around you. Notice how your podcast gives the platform to various different voices looking at alternative ways of living
mm.
outside of social norms, following their own alignment, their own spiritual paths, and you're educating. Can you see how aligned it is?
Yes. Yes. Too funny. Oh my goodness.
I know. So again, but I love the way that it comes full circle. Okay, so representing needs and perspective of the people around you by setting aside personal ego and biases, you become, and that's the thing about the 31. If you go and read the Gene Key 31, it's a really detailed expression which I advise you to look at about the way that the 31 has been used to for bad in history, like religion, like the way the
Hmm.
scripture
Hmm.
has then been taken down and then it's literal and this and that and rather than looking at the heart, coming from the energy of the heart space. So and how language can actually, the 31 is about people who can write books that transform the world as well. It is deeply rooted in
Oh my goodness.
yeah, which is why neuro-linguistic programming is so beautiful that you did. I
Yes.
have
Uh,
another, yeah. Okay, so fostering. Okay, so by putting aside your personal ego and biases, you become a conduit for inclusive and fair communication, fostering harmony and unity within your community. And it's really important that you go and look at your conscious sun 50 because it is the that's really what your role on this planet is and your brand. So the more you are internally operating at a frequency of peace, of
mm,
alignment, and modeling that, your aura starts to emanate and transform the people around you. But really, you're here as a very big community, sort of tribal elder who is here to create harmony in social structure. So have a
wow.
look at what that really means to you. Yeah.
Mm,
On a wider scale, like because actually, if you look at your pearl sequence, which again I didn't go into much depth in today, but the 6 means something different in the pearl. The pearl is where our higher work, our highest purpose, and the 6 is system. So you're really here to work at a system level. So life work, the sphere of your brand. I'll give you loads of like resources to look into
okay.
if you've got them. But so what happens with this 50 in your activation sequence, which remember these 4 gates are your incarnation cross. This is your purpose. And we're not going to have time to cover that today, but
Okay.
these 4 gates in your pearl, the 50 becomes not, it moves from being your life work to being your brand, like your voice, your essence. You don't have to be contrived. When you start showing up in that energy, and like
Mm.
everything you communicate, everything, the way that you operate will come through that 50.6. So the line 6 again actually is vision and education. So we see your life work archetype role of the teacher, and then we see, look,
Yeah.
wait. The 6 line brand is a visionary.
My gosh.
So, of all of the 6 brands, these are the people who are most in tune with the long term needs of others.
Yes.
The first line can empower people, and I'm the first line. The second of like literally, I'm the first line brand. So I'm here to create something new. I'm here as an originator, and I'm also here to empower people and to bring stability in
Mm.
certain things. So the first line. The second line can mesmerize, the third line can tickle them, the fourth line, blah, 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 fifth line. But the 6th line has the capacity to completely change a person's worldview.
Wow.
And so again, when you re-watch this video, or when you look at the otter notes, go back and look at look at the synthesis, look at the story, look at
Mm.
the thematics, that you can see how it's all coming together. Um, but the 6th line can change the worldview of a whole community, and we see that not only do we have that in your line, but in that 50, when you read what the 50 is about, you're going to see the same thing with your the third gate in your is here to mutate. You're here to enter into the yeses that are going to help you to innovate and bring large scale transformation to the way that people think, see, believe, whatever. So the 6th line has a vision to convey, and that vision is usually far ahead of its time. There is, however, no way that this vision can be communicated quickly. The,
Mm.
yeah, and that's why surrendering and getting into trust with that 14 and saying yes to the things that light you up, yes to the things that are, even when it's scary, turning your back on social, on a job and all the things, and following that sacral, because you will have the resources, you will have the opportunities.
Mm.
The vision is used to put. The depth of any true vision requires learning, contemplation, and study, which is why the 6th line's only true mean of communication is through education. The 5th line may solve your problems, but there is no guarantee that the problems won't return. And when they do, that's when you will need the 5th line again. But the 6th line doesn't offer you a solution. It offers you an education so the problem can be dealt with at the roots, which is why it's going to be really interesting to see what your third gate brings you into, because the third gate in traditional human design is also called trouble at the beginning, like trouble at the start, because
Mm.
it's always a very sort of the struggle and the challenge.
The learning
It's,
process.
yeah, exactly,
Mm. This makes
exactly.
so much sense.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So looking at whatever it is you start to create, it's going to be a tool or a system or a set of teachings that empower people to go within and cut to the core or get to the root and deal with the issue or whatever it may be. So
Mm.
what you're offering them is the tools to know how to go within to find their own wisdom, and what you're giving is a system that will show them how to find the answers themselves. So the 6th line thinks at a system level. It considers how nature works and creates environments in which people can discover for themselves what is best in them and for them. The true definition of prosperity is to teach others so well that they no longer need you.
Mm. Yes. Amen to that.
Exactly, yeah. The 6th line always carries the generous, transcendent vision that will ultimately lead us all to a greater collective prosperity. But when you look at that, the 14, hang on, let's see. Okay, so by observing the flow of events and sensing the needs of the collective, you can discern when it's appropriate to share your insights, guidance, and influence. The essence of the gate 31 lies in prioritizing the greater good over personal agendas. Your voice becomes a catalyst for democratic decision making. And the 50 is really here to bring that model of heterarchy in. And the 50 is in Pluto. Pluto, you notice it's actually in Pluto there, and it's in your sun. We can see that this is a big, important thematic and experience for you to create transformation in your own life and the lives of others. It's about this idea that there is no real hierarchy,
Yes.
and there's a self-organizing sense of power that comes from within us. So when we look at the 31,
Mhm.
the gate of democratic leadership, and we see that Pluto in 50 and your conscious sun, your brand, you're also here to create a culture or
Mm.
a systemic change in some way where we see a different paradigm.
This
Or
makes so much sense.
yeah. So let's go forward. Your voice becomes a catalyst for democratic decision making, empowering others and promoting fairness. By patiently waiting for right timing, you ensure that your message is received with receptivity and genuine consideration. Through grounding in this energy, your voice becomes a powerful instrument of influence and positive change. By speaking as the voice of the people, free from ego driven motives and waiting for the right time to share your wisdom and guidance, you contribute to the greater good of your community and inspire others to do the same. With
Mm.
patience and discernment, you create a harmonious and balanced environment where everyone's voice is heard and valued.
Oh man,
Amazing.
this is crazy. It's just funny because I mean, really, ever since I was little, I just feel like I've looked around and been like, none of these systems make sense. And anytime I'm put into like either a new role or I for a new company in the past, like it's just like they immediately have me like basically flip their systems on their head. You know what I mean? Like this makes so much sense. And I was waiting. I wanted to start the podcast 3 years ago, and I wanted to get to a place where I wasn't feeling a ton of emotion regarding it, and I wasn't driven by like making money off of it. And you know what I mean? I wanted to just be in a really, really neutral place. This is fascinating.
It's so great to hear that with that 29, the commitment. So you knew that it was something you were entering, that you entered into it correctly. And when you had the emotional intelligence to be able to surrender and
Mm,
allow and be committed and devoted to the process and the work, because it is a big part of what you're here to do. So before we wrap up, I want to give you some practical
okay.
something to really, really use as a generator, because it gets to be this simple. It truly does. So first things first. I mean, are you um, have you been experimenting with your sacral responses? So only saying yes to things.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to touch on at this point then for the listeners, the difference between initiating and responding, because I think a lot of generators in the not self who are conditioned to be manifestors, a lot of people in the world are trying to initiate things. And
Mm,
this is one of the things I love about human design is how to create an alignment. For a generator, the key thing is to really visualize. Here's an example that I often use. I got it from my teacher, and I really find it quite simple to explain the process. Say you're at work, you're a generator, and uh, you get an idea in your head. Oh, I want to go on holiday, and so you start looking at holidays at that point. But so you see loads of things. You see loads of things that look good. Okay, great. But then you go to the doctors, and the doctor says, "Hey, actually, you're looking like you need some time. So you're looking a bit burnt out. You need to take some time off. Maybe you should take a holiday." Boom. That's the first moment where you're in alignment now with the idea. You're becoming the first sign that this
yeah.
is an aligned journey for you. So then you come out of the doctors and you look up and you see like a hiking holiday across the Andes, and your sacral goes, yes. That is what you then go and book, because you've gone through a sequence and a process where you're not now initiating, but you are responding to the idea that had the download that had come in, but you're doing it you're actually saying yes to the right thing. The more you already are operating on a higher, remember I called it survival intuition, this foundational stuff, but the more you're already in alignment and connected with your clair skills and various ways that you receive intuition, you might have spirit guides, you might have other people, so you might have other ways of just knowing when
Yes.
to, but this process is a really powerful one when you really want to live that generator life and live in the flow without resistance. So that's one step to kind of differentiate initiating versus response. The last thing to really finish with is a practical way. So the generator, so for those listening, the ajna and the head center and the ajna are not decision making centers. These centers are quantum interfaces. So they're for processing information and verifying and evaluating and organizing. So our intellect is really here to process data or information that comes to us. Our decision making strategy comes from your sacral or my spleen or whatever. So if your sacral is saying yes to something that is illogical, but it's right for you, and your mind is going, oh, hey, hang on a minute, that's not going to be safe, or, da 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 da. You can find a lot of these generators are being talked out by the mind. So this is why that
Yes.
work, it sounds all simple, but the work needs to be done to make the mind a servant to the soul,
Yes.
surrender. Yeah. So one way to do that is to actually really take seriously visualization. So get clear on an end result goal. Sometimes you can just tune in to a time when you were successful, tune into a place where you feel safe and happy, and that can just be, the more you do that, you're actually calibrating your heart center, because the generator is always the aura is always attracting to them. It's always
Mm,
bringing you what you need, and
mm.
what you do is surrender and respond to the right thing. So that's one thing you can do. And actually, as you do that, the information that you need for something, or the right place for the retreat, or whatever, will just
Yes.
come to you. So that's
Yeah.
one way. The other way is really visualizing, seeing yourself, um, seeing the money coming into your bank account, seeing the clients coming, seeing yourself signing contracts, seeing yourself on stage, seeing your book in a New York Times, whatever it happens to be, and then being receptive and that, yeah, and responding, because very quickly the things will show up. So just practice that
This
and
is
you'll see.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Just like I it was shortly before COVID hit. I had been visualizing going on a mission trip, and not necessarily that with like a church, or I just kept, because I had done a ton of traveling, and I just kept visualizing myself working with children in some capacity outside of the US. And COVID hit. And then when the vaccines came up, my gut told me I was going to need it for travel. So I ended up praying about it. And again, I felt like I was absolutely going to need it for travel. I also felt like I was going to have a reaction to it, not a good reaction, but I also felt like I was going to get through that. And a month after I got the vaccine, I had a friend of a friend. I'd never even met her in person. She called me, asked me if I wanted to go to Guatemala to build a school for children and with a nonprofit. And I had no idea how I was going to pay for it. I had no idea how I was going to be able to get off of work for that long. And I just said yes immediately. And when I went in to ask my boss off for work, he volunteered to pay for the whole thing and give me time off.
Goosebumps. Now look at that. that is also that 14 in action. Your sacral
Yes.
responded to the right thing,
Yes.
and then the resources came.
Yes.
Great example. Great example. Really is all about surrender. There's so much surrender in your chart, you know. And if you can just and you do it like that, all those things, trusting yourself, full faith, magic, magic, magic all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And receiving was a big one that I had to work through when I was doing inner work. It just, it felt so like, again, going back to unworthiness, it just felt like I didn't deserve it. And now I'm finally to a place where I'm okay with it. More than okay with it.
Well, you're on the right track.
Oh man, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. Jess, I'm not kidding. I'm gonna sleep like a baby.
I'm so happy. And so am I actually.
Good, good. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough.
No,
Seriously,
thank you.
you
So are
are
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'll
And
be in
you.
touch soon, I promise.
All right then. Lots
Thank
of
you.
love.